What's going on, guys? Anime Yokage back at it again, and today we're going to be talking about Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 252. Sorry for the delay on these videos. Last week, everything just got to me a little too much, and before I knew it, the next chapter was coming out, so there was no point in doing those. Again, I'm going to try my best to try and stay on a consistent timeline of getting these out, but it'll happen from time to time, I think, until I can maybe one day, hopefully, make this my full-time job. So the closer we get to that, the more the timeline will become in sync. But let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to see is the outside of Yuta's barrier, where actually Kusakabe and Ino are both standing outside of it, having a discussion like this was a really good place that Yuta put the barrier. Brings up the fact that maybe they should have had more people in there, and they were planning to actually have Choso in there as well. And Kusakabe starts making up an excuse of why you can't change the plans now and there shouldn't be any more people in there or anything like that. And he really tries to come up with a lot of different excuses, but we probably know it's because Kusakabe is scared. Not a surprise. So let's keep moving on. So apparently the plan all along was for the domain to break, and when the domain breaks, that's going to be a signal to the outside team that it's time to strike. We don't get to see Maki in this first panel, but it says that we're trying to make sure there's no blind spots around the domain at all, so that when it breaks, if Sukuna tries to jump out, that they can pin him. But apparently the plan is for whenever it breaks, for Maki to rush in and attack Sukuna because he cannot detect her due to her heavenly restrictions. So Kusakabe passes it off to Maki and said, "Zenin, it's all on you." And it's really cool because we get to see her get in this sprinter stance and let out, exhale some breath. And it just looks really, really cool. We see Maki in the sprinter stance, just staring at the domain expansion, waiting for it to open and waiting for her moment. And as we pan down lower on the page, we see the domain is breaking while Kusakabe is facing it. And he says, "This is the sight we've been looking for." I don't know if it was all that clear on what the signal was going to be, that they could jump in and Sukuna would be at his lowest point and unguarded. But it could have been anything. There's no way that you can plan for what Sukuna's going to do to where you're going to be able to plan around that and go, oh yeah, well, he'll be keeping his distance from us, so at one point I'm going to shake my sword in there 3 times. It has to be something noticeable enough to where everybody would be like, that's probably it. And I can't think of anything better than the domain breaking to where everyone can enter. So in this next panel, you can see that it's really crudely drawn, and I don't know if it's because of the savagery of what's going on in the panel, or Gege just didn't have enough time to really do it very well. But I still like the look of it. In the top part of the page, we see that Yuta is getting slashed right through the abdomen, like a diagonal cut. And we see that Sukuna is getting stabbed through the back by Maki. What's weird, though, is that Sukuna is actually smiling. I wasn't expecting Sukuna to be like, oh, this is fun, and smiling because of it and everything. And we also see Rika rushing over towards Yuta to grab him and take him away from the situation. As you can imagine, Rika is incredibly upset over this, and there's tears flowing off of her face, or her face slits, wherever those are. I don't know what's going on with it. But she is crying, she is very anxious and freaking out, and she is grabbing Yuta and carrying him away as fast as she can. And we see Kusakabe yell out, "Wee Wee," and we actually see Wee Wee, or Wei Wei, it's probably Wee Wee. We see him pop onto the scene with that cloak thing that I guess he uses for his curse technique, and he is ready to teleport Yuta away to be healed, what we think, somewhere in a different location with reverse curse technique. We still don't know for sure if that's what's happening with everyone. We haven't been really told or shown exactly that's what's happening, but it's pretty cut and clear that it is, because later on in this chapter, we'll actually see someone rejoin us that would have been done otherwise. We see in the next panel that Sukuna, being the battle genius that he is, comes to the conclusion that Yuta's barrier was not destroyed. He took it down himself in order to send out a signal to everybody else. And we see Maki in this scene, now with her sword still in her hand, but pulled out of Sukuna, facing off against him. And this is going to get good. Sukuna actually gives us a little diagram of what's happening. And we see that once Yuta was willfully bringing down the barrier, and you can see it shattering and kind of cracking up top, that took Sukuna's attention up top. And apparently, anyone with no cursed energy is able to enter a barrier without breaking it or any kind of detection or anything. They can kind of just walk in. And that wouldn't That wouldn't set off Sukuna to let him know that somebody else has entered the barrier or it's been broken elsewhere. And the way that they avoid her being detected is they place the soul-splitting katana in the domain, in that area, before it was formed. So Yuta knew exactly where he needed to make his domain and keep it, because a soul-splitting katana was hidden within the domain. Maki was able to rush in and grab the sword and then stab him with it, thus no detection whatsoever. And we've seen before how Yuji was able to break into Mahito's barrier. He had to forcefully break in. It shattered where he broke in. But in this diagram, it's showing us that someone with no curse energy, be it Maki or Toji, are able to enter a domain without breaking it and just like slip through the cracks and fall into it, kind of like it's a veil. And we get some explanation here that Sukuna isn't actually able to repair his heart normally like he would with reverse curse technique, because it was with the soul split katana. And anyone who understands the outline of the soul would do a lot worse damage than to just a physical body. So he's having a hard time actually healing this, and he's going to have to supplement the healing with just raw cursed energy, squeezing and pumping his heart for him. And that's super cool because Sukuna just has an answer for everything. And I know we've seen it in other fantasy shows or anime or anything like that, like someone forcefully beating someone's heart or something like that. And just to see him do it with raw cursed energy, it's incredible, because the level of control and power that Sukuna has over cursed energy, almost with every chapter, is just getting more and more and more impressive. We see that Sukuna, even being aware of the outline of his own soul, is having a hard time even making this happen, just because he is still recovering from the fight with Gojo. And that's an absolute testament to Gojo to show that he's even having this much effect even after Sukuna did a full heal transformation into his Heian era body. And it's been months and weeks to us, but in the grand scheme of this, it's probably maybe since the start of Gojo's fight with Sukuna, maybe it's been hours. It's only probably been hours. In the next panel, we see Yuji rushing in towards the fight, but he actually collapses and he starts coughing up blood. And at first he's surprised by this, but then he starts to realize why this is happening. And it should be no surprise to anybody that since Yuji just learned RCT not too long ago, that he has not fully mastered it. The guy is a prodigy by a lot of means, but this is still an incredibly difficult technique that only a few people even know how to do, let alone mastering it. So when he's been healing himself over and over and over again from this fight, he hasn't been fully healing himself. It hasn't been, think of it like kind of stitching something up, but not tightening it and suturing the stitch and making sure that it stays sealed from here on out. He's basically putting duct tape over these wounds and just continuing the fight because he's not focusing on it. And that's when we see the character return, who was only just a special guest to the Donut Club. Choso's back. He is back, and he's pulling an older brother move, putting his hand on Yuji's back, and he's walking him through how to concentrate and use RCT properly. He's telling him, remember your training, remember what you were taught. And the way that he's kind of teaching him is saying, think of your blood as roots from a tree, reaching out to every corner of your body. And that's where you need to be able to use it to find where it needs to be healed. He knows the general area, but you need your blood to go seek out and find exactly every little bit of tear and disconnection and fix everything properly. And both of them having Kamo blood in them, they are both very aware of the blood in their body, and they can control it with a lot of precision. So using this in order to find your wounds that haven't been 100% healed is incredibly smart, because who can find it better than your own body and your own blood? Kind of like if you have a leak somewhere in your house and with plumbing or anything like that, the water's gonna find it. It's gonna find it. It's gonna tell you exactly where it is. And so I just think it's really clever and smart to be able to use their manipulation of blood and their kind of consciousness of it, and use that in order to pinpoint the RCT and where it needs to be applied. Oddly enough, in this next chapter, we see Sukuna is on the run from Maki. And I guess it's because of his wound in his chest and his heart right now. He is trying to figure out how to fix that first, I think. But we can see he always has a smile on his face. He's having fun right now. So Maki in pursuit is jumping towards a street light in order to bounce off it. Sukuna throws a dismantle and cuts the street light in half. And she actually uses the rebound from it to shoot herself right in front of him. She slingshots herself right in front of Sukuna, and while she's getting thrown right in front of him, she slashes with the Soul Split Katana. Sukuna being Sukuna, though, he is able to react in time and jump over it. Surprise. Sukuna comes back down, and he grabs onto the Soul Split Katana, thinking, oh, I'm in control now. But we all know that Maki is on the same level of strength as someone like Toji. And I don't think Sukuna is prepared for the amount of raw power and strength that he's about to start feeling. Because as he's grabbed onto the Soul Split Katana, Maki just smiles and slams him over with it, bonks him on the ground with using the Soul Split Katana, and he's completely on his head, slammed over on the pavement. I don't think he saw this coming. And I think this is going to factor into maybe a new strategy that he's going to have to think of, because Sukuna is used to being the strongest person in the field. I know that Maki isn't the strongest when it comes to curse and curse energy technique, because obviously she has none, but I don't think that Sukuna is going to be ready for the amount of bullying and the large strength gap and raw physical strength that he's about to feel with Maki. Arguably, I'm actually not even arguably, Maki is way more physically strong than someone even just like Yuji. And Sukuna always marvels at Yuji's physical raw strength not supplemented by cursed energy. So Maki is in control of the fight right now. After she bonks him on the ground, she slings him into a building because he's still trying to hold on to the Soul Split Katana. He gets flung straight off it and heading toward a building. It seems Maki is pursuing, but Sukuna, once he touches the building, he applies dismantle to it and makes a whole bunch of debris to either soften his landing or create a diversion, or probably just both. He sends all that debris towards Maki, and Maki, still being cool as shit, just kind of like, okay, whatever, it doesn't hurt me, I'm not scared of it. But out of the debris, she hears twin meteors, and a giant dismantle world-cutting slash comes through the debris at her. But lo and behold, her heavenly restrictions allow her to see curse techniques and curse energy better than normal people, so she is able to dodge this attack from Sukuna. And this next part's really cool, at least it's cool to me. Sukuna notes that she can see the curse technique better than other sorcerers, and he actually compares her and fighting her to whenever he fought Maharaga in Shibuya. And Maharaga in that fight was an absolute monster. He was a detriment to Sukuna when it came to only using cleave and dismantle. Of course, whenever he pulled out Fuga and Black Box, it was a different story. But Maharaga could not be beaten by even the epitome of his curse technique, which is Malevolent Shrine, that was supposed to shred him to bits. Maharaga was just walking straight through it. So for him to compare Maki to Maharaga at that point is so cool, because it's really awesome to see how far Maki has come and the absolute beast that she has turned herself into with full heavenly restriction. She kind of starts playfully taunting him, saying, "You're going to keep that up with your heart? You're going to keep doing that through this whole fight?" And Sukuna says, "I don't see why not. I haven't broken a sweat yet, so it's not even really a big deal." The flexes of this man are ridiculous. As much as I want to stay in this fight and keep seeing what happens, we actually switch over to Hakari and Uraume, which I know we were all wondering what's happening. It's an interesting fight, don't get me wrong. It is an interesting fight, and I would love to see what happens. But when it's also Yuta, Yuji, Maki, and the rest of the gang versus Heianera Sukuna, I don't care very much, and I guess it's a nice break in between to build up suspense and flesh out the time and everything. It's a great fight otherwise. I wish I could care more. In comparison to the other fight that's happening right now, I just don't care. I do care. I'm just excited for the other one way more. Hakari can kind of sense what's happening with the fight, and he starts giving some relief. Oh man, when I first saw that giant hulking body And it's super funny because Geikei just, in case we didn't know who he's talking about, Heianera Sukuna, who's just like an absolute monster. What is he, 9 foot tall, 4 arms, and just lean as can be. Since he just draws Sukuna in the air with his 4 arms out and just kind of like, I don't know, the most elementary stick person version of Sukuna I've ever seen. It's just really funny to see, especially with that's how Hakari's seeing in his mind for a reference. But he's like, yeah, I thought we were in deep shit when it came to seeing his true form and his Heianera form. But we're really doing this. We're really winning and taking control of this fight. And Hakari just starts to say, we're going to be the victors here. You know that. And Uraume says something along the lines like, your brain is just as stupid as your dumb technique. And Hakari gets confused by this. Uraume confirms that if Sukuna were taking this seriously, you guys wouldn't be here. It would already be over. And she's saying it's really a shame that you guys weren't able to produce anybody to be the same kind of level as fight as Gojo. Even with all these people combined, you still couldn't do the same amount of damage or put the same kind of pressure on as Gojo could. And I think that as cool as it is to see how good we're doing at Sukuna, remember in all these panels, he hasn't broken a smile yet. He's just having fun. And Sukuna's whole point of being is to fight and have fun and face challenges. He's not scared yet. And it's been shown through all these chapters. He is not scared. He's been surprised a few times, but he's not scared. And Uraume confirms it, saying you would know if he was scared because you guys would already be dead. And Uraume doubles down, saying even after Gojo did everything that he did to Sukuna, you guys still can't put him on the fences. He is still that strong, has that much energy, and has that much stamina and resilience and durability to where you guys still aren't making a dent in him. And I believe in these next few chapters, we're really going to start to see Sukuna get serious, because with that attack to his heart with a soul split katana, I know that he says he hasn't even broken a sweat yet and he'll keep doing that, but now I feel like that he may kick into his first gear of being serious. We saw him serious against Gojo and he was relentless. He was never on the run. He was never trying to get away from Gojo. He was always on the offensive and always attacking. So we haven't seen that yet. We've seen him running away a little bit, chasing, just trying to get a feel for the battlefield and what's going on. And I think he really wants to see what people can do, because he's always interested in new techniques and how people use their cursed energy and everything like that. I think that we're really going to start to see him being serious here in a little bit. And I think whenever he gets serious, we're going to be in a different playing field. I don't think that it's going to be fair. I don't think that it is going to be as close as we've been deceived to think how close it's going to be. I really think that even with everyone in the field right now, we're going to need a Hail Mary. And I think that Hail Mary comes in the form of Shoko bringing somebody back to the battlefield that is not there anymore right now. Be it Higuruma, be it, dare I say it, Gojo. Even if Gojo was back right now, I feel like a lot of these people in the field would be a distraction to him where he couldn't full out fight. Being in Heianera and being able to amplify all of his curse techniques with his chants, be it his tummy mouth and his second set of arms, I don't know if Gojo would be able to stand as much of a chance against him, even with the help of everybody else, because all that Sukuna wanted to do with Maharaga, the reason he fought him in Megumi's body was one, for the one-time transformation he can get to heal his body completely back, but the other one was to use Maharaga and his adaptability in order to find a chink in Gojo's armor. And he found it. It's done. He found the world-cutting slash. So he technically doesn't need Maharaga, the 10 Shadows, anymore in order to defeat Gojo, because that other tummy mouth and the second set of arms are doing the hand size and the chants in order for him to freely use the world-cutting slash whenever he wants. So all in all, we got to see a lot of fight in this. So all in all, we got to see a lot of new action in this chapter. We got a lot of reveals to how the domain came apart, how Maki got into it. We got a feel for how Maki is going to do against Sukuna. I think that she's going to do well, but only whenever he's not taking it seriously. I think as soon as he kicks it in his first gear of seriousness, that it's going to be something that none of them can keep up with. That's just my thoughts. I hope that they can keep up, but I think that we're going to get some other kind of reveal or some other kind of upgrade to the field or something like that. But what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you want to see next week. Let me know what you got right about this week. Always starting up a conversation. I love to hear from you guys. So with that being said, I'm Enemy Okage. See you later.